Hey, maybe we let kickers have a heavier helmet so that, with all the tackles they're making, they can throw that thing around. Speaking of helmets, obviously football was introduced to the Guardian cap a few years back to save heads and brains from unnecessary hits during practices and things like that. Then there was a conversation that started like, these might get approved to be worn in the game. So what we all thought is the Guardian cap looks stupid. Us old football people looking back like that looks stupid. Then the Chargers did a little do-si-do with it. They had like a cotton cover of it so they could have the Chargers logo with the number on it, make it look more helmet-wise. So the Guardian on top of the helmet with a cover, you can still get the logo in there, looks more helmety. But then this safer helmet technology has now hit colleges this year where it's like a rubber top basically put on top of the helmet, and it has a plastic look, so it looks like it's just an added helmet on top of the helmet. What does the data say about the Guardians being added into practice reps, about brains and concussions and everything like that? And how quickly are we looking at the potential of Guardians being on a field or these new safer helmets making their way onto an NFL field?
Well, let me give you a couple bits of data. First of all, we started the Guardian cap requirement in practices in the preseason because that's where we were seeing the most head contact and lots of concussions that obviously, you'd like to avoid. And we actually didn't introduce the Guardian cap to reduce concussions.
Oh.
That may not make a lot of sense, but the idea was it was going to reduce that play after play blow that players can take, right? The lab modeling said you get about a 10 to 15% force reduction every time the helmet is hit if it's covered with a Guardian cap. And if you've got two players and they collide, then there's an additive effect. Now we're in the 20 to 30% range. So we introduced it thinking we'll help prevent some of that wear and tear of those forces that tend to pile up during heavy periods of contact, which, as you know, is that early training camp, early preseason period. When we did that, the first year, we were really surprised by the numbers, Pat. It came back, there was about a 50% drop in concussions in those players wearing the Guardian cap compared to what the 3-year average had been for those positions. And at the same time, the positions not wearing the Guardian cap actually went up a little bit. And so that was really unexpected. As I said, we were trying to reduce play after play force, but the Guardian cap seemed to have some protective effects. So based on that 1 year of data, we modified, added to it last year, got the same exact result, about a 50% drop in the 3-year average of concussions. And by the way, there have been some other leagues like the Canadian Football League that found sort of the same thing in their practice setting. So it really became a situation where we said, it's hard to ignore that data. And that's why we went ahead and made the push this year that all players on the practice field had to wear the Guardian cap during all helmeted practices, except for quarterbacks, kickers, and punters, because they're not getting hit anyway during practice. So the science is what drove us to rolling it out that way. Now, as far as the in-game usage, we have said that we will permit it to be worn in-game. The piece that you put up in the picture that's up on the screen right now is like a little cover that pulls over the Guardian cap. Actually, all 32 of our teams have those available to them now. And we've said if a player wants to wear the Guardian cap in-game, it does need to be covered with that cover just so it looks like all the other helmets. The reason we haven't mandated the Guardian cap in-game is we don't have that 10-year experience that we did with using it in practice. So we'll obviously be monitoring and tracking that. But I think you probably will see a few players wear it in-game with the cover on it. We've heard rumors that there may be a couple of players even this weekend, starting tonight, that may be wearing the Guardian cap in-game. So it's something, again, we'll monitor and we'll track that. As far as the other helmet add-ons you mentioned about the NCAA, again, our engineers, together with the Players Association engineers, are always looking at those add-ons and seeing if there's anything that's safer that's out there. My own personal belief, though, Pat, is that in a couple years, the technology that's part of these add-ons will actually be incorporated into the helmet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It's like we're putting a helmet on top of a helmet. Why don't we just make that the initial helmet, it feels like?
That's obviously the direction we're going, and we've seen the helmets get better and better every single year. In fact, this year there were 12 new helmet models introduced into the NFL, and 6 of those tested better in our lab testing than anything we've ever seen. They're better materials, better design. They do a better force at mitigating force. And I think that makes sense if you think about our cars. I mean, our 2024 model, 2025 model cars have a lot more safety features on them, better materials, better design than, certainly cars even 8 or 10 years ago, or I've got an old 1995 farm truck. It doesn't have anything in it anymore as far as safety equipment. So that's the nature of helmets. They've gotten better, and they're just safer now because of what we've learned.
You don't have to register a farm truck. That's a good play by you. That's a good play by you. I know the game. I know the game you farmers are running with that entire thing. But you're right. I guess as technology evolves, it's only going to get better, which leads me to, for the Giants, Giants-Lions had quite a physical practice, but one of the clips is Terrion Arnold taking a shot from Thomas here, who's pulling as a tackle. And I believe the information that we've received since bringing this up in the first hour is like that helmet is a position-specific helmet to protect him. It's like a next-level helmet, so he does not have to wear the Guardian cap in the middle of this. Is that what it's going to be? And that's what we're kind of talking to here. And he utilized his helmet as a weapon, which I think will continue to be the case for some football players, especially in positions of contact. And Arnold just kind of has to eat it here, or what is that helmet the future of this entire thing?
Well, I mentioned those 12 new helmet models. I mentioned that 6 of them test better than any that we've ever seen. We actually call those Guardian Cap optional helmets because in the lab, they're testing at a level of safety that exceeds a regular helmet plus a Guardian Cap. So we said if you're wearing one of those 6 top helmets, you don't have to wear the Guardian Cap because you're just as protected. So we've seen about 25% of the linemen in the league are wearing one of those Guardian Cap optional helmets so far this season, one of those position-specific helmets. And so you will see some players on the practice field that don't have the Guardian Cap, but again, they're just as protected because they've got one of those, what we think are very, very safe helmets. Again, part of that's incentivizing them to try it and hope that they'll continue to use it because Pat, our lab data has always done a really good job predicting what happens on field. So we think if something shows in the lab that it's safer, it ought to show up as a safer helmet on field with a lower concussion rate. And we love to get as many players in that as we can. And you mentioned this also. We're starting to see helmets for specific positions. Linemen have one helmet. Quarterbacks have a different helmet. I think, again, in 3 to 5 years, wide receivers, DBs will have a different helmet. You'll have different helmets based on what position you play because they'll give you more protection for that position.
That seems to make sense. I can't wait for that quarterback helmet to be...
Oh, yeah.
Like you actually can't fall over.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a wheelie bar.
Yeah.
It's actually already out there. We had, I think, 10 quarterbacks that wore a quarterback-specific helmet last year. The numbers I saw this morning said about 20% of the quarterbacks in the league are already in a quarterback-specific helmet. Basically, it has extra padding in the back because quarterbacks tend to fall as they're throwing the ball in an unprotected way. They hit their head on the ground, and that's how they get concussed. So the quarterback helmet has kind of extra protection in the back of the helmet, the quarterback-specific helmet. And again, we saw about 10 players wear it last year, including some of the most well-known quarterbacks in the league.
So, Doc, you're supposed to look like an asshole while you're playing football? Is that what we're basically
Still do. You can put whatever you want on top of it. It looks horrendous.
I heard you go, as we were explaining the
question. The other one looks better. It basically sounds like, hey, new helmets are going to have this built in, and it's not going to look as bad.
Yeah, because Guardian is just a helmet on top of a helmet. And then the one that they're doing in college looks much better than Guardian, but it's just, okay, you're putting a helmet on top of a helmet.
Yeah.
So I don't fully comprehend what we're doing. Sounds like next 3 to 5 years, these helmet companies know how much money is possible if we make the outside of the helmet also a part of the inside of the helmet. Doesn't matter how big it looks. You can look like an asshole. As long as we're safe, we keep it moving. There is a lot of business to be had and hopefully safety to gain from it.
Well, like even the Kittle and Bosa helmets that are like the next gen ones, like they do look weird. They absolutely do. And so it is kind of just that adjustment, kind of like the kickoff. Like, all right, we just got to get used to these massive like fronts.
Yeah,
inside.
and then Zeke had that one helmet. There's a new look coming, and that's kind of been taking place for a while with these helmets. We just got to get used to it. We want the game to survive and thrive going forward.
Amen. Right.
Yep.
And we don't want Dr. Will Smith in the future coming back saying, tell the truth.
No, can't have it.
They're going to try to do their best. That's literally what that guy was hired for.
Yes.
So we appreciate him stopping by. He's going to make decisions that we all hate, but in his eyes, he's doing it for the future of the game. Football guy who also happens to be a brain surgeon. So
bingo.
We like him. Hammer, Dahn, Tone, what's up?
Yeah, I had a question for you and AJ. He said that we could potentially see a Guardian cap in the game as soon as tonight. What would be the reaction in the locker room by teammates?
Nowadays, I don't know what the locker room is.
Well, we know AJ would stuff him in a locker, but
of course.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that happens anymore. It'll be what position do you think wears it first?
Guard.
O-lineman. It'll probably be an O-lineman that's got dinged up a bunch of times. I mean, which I get.
A kicker just needs to rip off the Band-Aid and say, hey, I got you guys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Kicker or punter.
They got to make tackles now. Kicker's making tackles on kickoff now, so maybe it will be.
They've always made tackles on kickoff.
Thank you. 20-something.
More now. They will be involved much more, I believe.
People forget about that. 20-something tackles.
Well, I mean, you're not the average kicker, though. You know that.
How bad was your coverage team?
Yeah.
20 tackles. So how many times did you
I
attempt
had
to
11
Did you miss
tackles
any?
in 1 year.
That's a lot.
I think I had 10 or 11 in
a
1
ton.
year. I led our special teams in tackles. That was the year we were almost completely defeated.
Yeah.
So think about how much worse it could have been.
And
could have
how-
been 10 more touchdowns.
And how much less kickoffs you had.
Yeah, we didn't score a lot.
Yeah,
Did you negotiate that into your contract? Like, hey, if I get more than 7 tackles this year, I want an extra $1 million.
Okay. I should have. Bad businessman back then.